Improvising with a blues scale sounds super impressive, but it's really not that hard. This video will get you started amazing your friends and family and just having fun. When I was in 7th grade, I had just joined a rock band and we wrote a song that had space for me to do a piano solo. We also had a talent show coming up and I wanted to impress the girls at my school, so I needed to learn how to do an amazing piano solo fast. The drummer showed me this scale, the C minor blues scale, and I actually just put little pieces of tape on every single key on the piano that was in the scale and just hit them as fast as I could. But this did help me get some muscle memory for it, and eventually I learned there is more to playing a solo than just rapid fire banging all the notes of the scale. So I'll get you up and running with that right hand scale. I'll also give you a few tips for soloing, and I'll even give you some left hand chord progressions that sound great with it. If you're new here, I'm Nate. I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe, click the bell, and also have a poke around the channel for songs that you're excited to learn. Let's jump in. Okay, so the notes in this scale are C, E flat, F, F sharp, G, and B flat. And so it sounds complete, back to C. So notice we have this little cluster of 3 chromatic notes in the middle. Everything else is a little bit more spaced out. Now the fingering is super easy. Basically, you're gonna put your thumb on any white key and your third finger, middle finger, on any black key, like this. So a little bit of crossing the thumb under as you go. Now, if you're gonna just do 1 octave up and down, it kind of makes sense to use your pinky on that high C. It's just a little bit more efficient rather than crossing under and then back. So you can do it that way. A really nice way to practice this scale is to do it in 2 octaves. And then when you cross over the first octave here, use your thumb. And then at the top, turn around on your pinky. So just spend some time up and down the scale like that. And even just running the scale, it sounds really cool. Take as much time getting the hang of this as you need. Like I said, this is the C minor blues scale, so it works under any chord progression in the key of C minor. But just for starters, you could just play a C minor chord in the left hand. So that's C, E flat, and G. And then you can just hit that and start practicing that scale. And you can play around with different rhythms as you get used to it. And we could try some chord changes in the key of C minor. Here's a nice little 4-measure chord progression I like. So we've got C minor for 4 counts. We're in 4/4 time. So C minor, 2, 3, 4, up to F minor. So that's gonna be the exact same shape as C minor, but it's F, A flat, and C. Then up to G minor. Again, same shape. All these chords are the same shape here. G, B flat, and D. And then back down to F minor. So you can do a nice slow pulse, 4 counts on each of these measures. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So I'm just stepping up and down. And it already sounds really good. It sounds like a piano solo. You can kind of turn around sometimes at spots that aren't on the C. And I'm just taking you through some different options here, but if you need to take a whole week just getting the hang of the scale in the right hand and keeping your left hand just holding out that single C minor chord, that's totally cool. But some other tips to make what you're doing with the right hand sound a little bit more interesting, in addition to just the stepping up and down and switching directions, you can leave some space. Like, you don't have to constantly be hitting rhythms. Also, you might stumble upon some nice little patterns. So just any sort of rhythm or pattern with a couple of notes. They don't even have to be right next to each other in the scale. That can be really cool too. Also, you don't always have to be moving between notes. You can do some rhythms just on a single note. Speaking of that, I'm varying the dynamics as well. So sometimes playing loud, sometimes playing soft. Just remember all the expressive possibilities of the piano are there for you as you do this. When you really start getting comfortable with this, you can start playing around with playing more than one note at a time from the scale. You know, eventually when you practice this, it's like you're looking at the keyboard and all the notes that are in the scale kind of light up, or maybe you have the tape on the keys like I did. In which case you can just start playing around. Pretty much any two notes from the scale are gonna sound pretty cool together. That F sharp sounds intense sometimes. So last thing I want to mention is this F sharp, that chromatic note. That's the blues note there. That's what gives it that kind of edgy blues sound. So that's the one place in the scale where sometimes it sounds kind of ugly. So in general, you want to do it kind of in passing, like a grace note, like. And by the way, once I'm sort of playing around with different melodies, I sometimes stop doing just the 1 and 3. You can play around with different fingers for different purposes, but it sounds really nice to just do it as a grace note, like the F sharp to G. So you don't want to linger on that too long, unless you're trying to build a bunch of tension for a second, because then it's really satisfying when you get away from that. But also, don't be afraid to slide on it. That can be really fun. Maybe if you have your thumb on C, you can kind of, or even just slide one finger. Play around with it. It's super fun. One super interesting thing about the minor blues scale is it actually works with the parallel major. So this is the C minor blues scale, and I've been doing a progression in the key of C minor. If you just make it C major, but keep doing that scale, it works. It has a different sound, but it sounds really cool. It almost shouldn't work because you have that tension between the minor E flat there and then the major E natural there. But that's part of what gives blues its sound. There's this tension between major and minor that's kind of edgy, but really satisfying. So here's that same chord progression, but major. Sounds really good. You can make any of those major chords dominant 7th chords too. And finally, I just want to give you one more progression that I think sounds really cool with this scale that's kind of a hybrid between the major and the minor. Here's the chords for that. So we've got the C minor from the key of C minor, of course. We can go up to the E flat chord. That's going to be E flat, G, and B flat. Also fits into the key of C minor, or the relative major key, E flat major. Then we can take this F major chord, so all white keys, F, A, C. And then this A flat major chord, again from the C minor key. So that's A flat, C, and B flat. I love this progression. It's got this sort of uplifting sound. It doesn't stay in one key, so it sounds a little surprising. Yeah, sounds great. All right, thank you for watching. I'm gonna wrap this video up by just improvising for a couple of minutes using this chord progression, and I might switch into that C major chord progression just for a little bit of contrast. And as I do it, I'm just gonna try to keep in mind some of those different pointers I was giving you about improvising.